think in this case, INEC has done very well. Definitely without hitches, like you have had, from the interviews that you have had on the people from the people. One, of course, wishes that INEC would be able to make available, more facilities for people to be able to easily, collect these PVCs. On our own part, as political parties, we are making, our own efforts by telling people, sensitizing the people that this is your right, this is the power that you have to change, what you don't like, or to reaffirm what you like as far as elections are concerned. And I think we are making some progress. We're making some progress in Nigeria as far as democracy is concerned. That is why you find people enthusiastic about ensuring that they have their PVC in spite of everything that is happening to them, because it's not huru yet as far as democracy is concerned. So that if people are happy with what is happening, but even at that, they are still enthusiastic about collecting these PVCs. The chairman said about 13 point something million, PVC has been printed, distributed to the states. Yes, distribution to the states is one thing. To get it to the where people can easily access and collect them, is another thing, and that's where the challenge lies. And also the recent development of this insecurity, these attacks that we are witnessing, is also something that, of course, that is external to INEC. There's nothing INEC is not cannot do anything except the security agencies that can help in this case. And they are also, I think, rising up to the occasion, and as far as attacking, reducing or attenuating, the effect of these attacks, as we have witnessed in some parts of the country. So, all in all, I'll say that we are on course, really, to deepen democracy and to enable everybody, that to the inclusiveness that we talk about, to really happen, especially in 2023 elections. It's about Nigerians. It's about their future. It's about their now, actually, not only the future. So this is why, and INEC has, at all points in time, demonstrated that they are equal to the task. And we as political parties too, you can see the amount of resources and energy and passion the country has been energized, to ensure that 2023 will be a break, from what has been happening before. Today, democracy is no longer something that is strange. We've done almost 20-something years now, on this exercise of building democracy. And this is why you only find cases of more interest, being put into the whole exercise. So that Nigeria, the largest democracy on the continent of Africa, and the biggest, nation, really, if you want, as far as black race is concerned, takes its rightful place. That is as far as democracy is concerned. So, so far so good, I would say, but definitely we need to do more, and we are doing more, like INEC is doing.
Okay, we'll return to some of those things. You have been on this scene for quite a while, and you've observed a lot across the country. What are your impressions about the PVC collection to date?
Well, I think we first need to appreciate the fact that election is not compulsory in our country. You need to understand that it is by persuasion. People have to be persuaded to be involved. There are countries where election is compulsory. You must have to vote once you have voting age. So we have 84 million plus people who were registered before this continuous voter registration period. We only have added about 9 million thereabouts.
That's right.
To the current register. Before that, those 84 million registered voters across the country, you have thousands of PVCs lying uncollected in INEC offices. It's always very important, because when the chairman of IPAC talks about the enthusiasm, we must also understand that the attitude of people to this PVC is not just for election. Many of them see this as ID cards, things that they can use for identification and the rest of them. So ordinarily, there are many people who just by losing their PVC, losing their other means of identification, will run to get this. So how that impacts election itself is something that we need to study. So now that we have 13 million PVCs distributed across not majorly new registrants, but people who are also transferring and the rest of them, we need to do a lot more work to get people to collect their PVCs. And the fact is that it is a law-determined process. That's why it is called collection. You have to physically go and collect your PVC. It cannot be done by proxy. Somebody on that opener, the opener that we watched, right, said he just gave his landlord. That makes it look like we are in a war on collection of PVC. So this is the time to, and then INEC must, as a matter of responsibility, take seriously the issue of transaction between his officials and those who are coming to collect. Because what we do all the time is to play down this. It is a disincentive for citizens who come out to collect their PVCs when they are asked to pay money to do that. And everybody says, oh no, it's not true. If we find somebody, people must be scapegoated. People must be shown that there must be a sting operation that will help to be able to sanction this unscrupulous officials who are in my view diminishing the very high professional attitude with which INEC is responding to this PVC collection. So generally for me, it's about first mindset, and I think Alhaji Abaji alluded to that fact, that the mindset of the people needs to be tailored in a way that they understand that it is their responsibility, and that the frustration that they face will pale into insignificance when they then eventually exercise their civic duty as citizens of the country. And that is why this PVC is one to everyone. Nobody can have two. The president of Nigeria has only one PVC. The senator has only one PVC. House of Rep member has only one PVC. If it were not law determined, people will have had 3 or 4. And the richer you are, the more you are able to have. But we have a situation in which democracy, citizenship has made it that you have one, and that one is what you are going to use to exercise your franchise. And INEC has a responsibility, like I said, to scapegoat those who are tarnishing their good image. And this is real, because all over the country these reports are emerging, and there seems not to be a very serious response to it. In the backwater communities, people are paying money. Indeed, the even ordinary election observation, that people have been accredited. I stumbled into something at the airport just yesterday, where someone was telling me that he was being asked to pay money to be an observer. The attitude of our people to civic responsibility needs to change, and I think that we have opportunity to begin to work around those things to ensure that we remove all the obstacles that our people face in exercising this responsibility.
Yes, but when you talk about this, do you not envisage another challenge here? Because it is known that even where there are sharp practices and toward practices, the victims are not too willing to come out and identify those who've done it. Now, we've all heard of reports of people officials demanding gratification for people to collect their PVCs, and we do know from reports that we have even carried on this network that INEC has always said where any such is confirmed, drastic action would be taken. But it would seem we have not seen many people, those who have actually been asked to come out and say, here, Mr. ABC at such location XYZ asked me to pay at this point. It's difficult. So that's another part of the
we are sharing responsibility on live television. Somebody said in Otaku.
Yeah.
So you know those who you deployed to Otaku. It's a simple matter. If we are serious on live television, somebody, a citizen have come to say, I paid 2,000 naira to their officials. And then you have the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner say you need to, if that happens, we are not going to, and this is the height. I tell people that if election fails, whatever way election fails, because election is a law-determined process. If it fails, it's a function of law enforcement. If you enforce the law, it will not fail. Somebody is on live television saying, I paid money, 2,000 naira, to collect temporary. And all you need to do is, Mr. Security Agent, come to NTA, get this video, track the persons you sent to that particular place on that particular day, and question them. It's a simple matter. But we're not going to do that because we are territorial. We like to close these things. But except we expose them, sanction those officials, the other people will not learn. So this idea of until people come out, somebody has come out, there is one. Just make an example of that particular person, and then you can be rest assured.
That, of course, yes.
Yes, well, I believe that, the gentleman here has said that it's not out of place for INEC to carry out a kind of sting operation where you send people to some of these places and then to find out, because if people are coming out to say this happened, then it must be happening. So, and then, but if you send somebody to now, on the purpose of finding out the bad eggs, among your staff, it's not too much, because it's a very serious, assignment. That it's a national assignment. It's about the law, and if people have to pay, before they collect their PVCs, I think it's not good enough.
Okay, I'd just like to say that we've been joined this conversation by Samson Itodo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa. He's joining us via Zoom. Samson Itodo, thanks for being with us tonight. If you can hear me, I would want to think that we've had the privilege of listening to both the IPAC chairman and Ezewa Wagu and their opening comments about the issues tonight, which are mainly to do with the collection of PVCs. So, if you've been listening in, at this point we might ask what your impression is about the collection of PVCs so far.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. And please just confirm we can hear you.
Yes, sure. Sure, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I've listened to Isola and Anadjia, and I align my thoughts with the views that have been expressed, to the extent that the PVC collection process is on. Yes, people are collecting the PVCs, but the process, has come with 3 major challenges. And the first one deals with the cases of unprinted PVCs. And what INEC has said is that there are voters who are guilty of double registration or multiple registration. And in this instance, INEC has invalidated their records. Now, what INEC fails to do is to publish a list of the people whose records have been invalidated. And so for voters who just out of ignorance registered twice, they've gone out to the collection centers to collect their PVC and thinking of believing that their PVCs were ready, and their PVCs are not there. And all they were told, it's either they need to come back in 2 weeks, or if at that point they are informed that their records have been invalidated. And if INEC had published the list of the records of people whose records have been invalidated, they will contact those people. Those people wouldn't have showed up at the collection centers to collect their PVCs. The second critical issue borders on the issue around personnel. And now, in a lot of the centers, and based on the protocol, INEC deployed 2 officials per collection center. Now, if you look at the level of turnout in some centers, there's just the challenge of understaffing and inadequate personnel to manage the collection process. This is why groups like Yiga Africa, is supporting INEC, both in Abuja and in Lagos, to deploy volunteers to support this process. But across the country, we've also seen cases where people have showed up, they have to wait for long queues just to get their PVCs. And that, again, perhaps is one of the reasons why INEC extended the collection process to about January 29th for the entire process, and then 22nd of January for the world level collection. I think the third critical point around the PVC collection process, again, ties to the first point that I made, that it is clear that there are people whose PVC records have not been invalidated, their registration records have not been invalidated. It's just that INEC has not produced those PVCs. And so INEC needs to produce those PVCs for those people, and also inform the people that their PVCs are ready, so they can come collect their PVCs. Yes, while we are mindful of the fact that there are people whose records have been invalidated, but there are people who are genuine voters on the register whose PVCs are not being produced. So INEC needs to produce those PVCs. And this 2 weeks narrative, INEC needs to be clear about this 2 weeks directive on information given to registrants when they show up to collect their PVCs. Ask them to come back in 2 weeks. What if after by 2 weeks the entire process has come to a close? Does INEC have a plan or a further plan to issue those PVCs to those people when they get produced? So these are some of the issues we've been observing since the entire process commenced.
Thank you so very much. There are also other challenges, and we identified a few of them in our earlier report before this conversation started. And one of them, of course, is to deal with the frequent attacks on INEC facilities and personnel. One of the respondents on that report actually said he was scared to go out and collect his PVC. With recent attacks, people, are scared of stepping out. Yes, it's a civic responsibility. They very well would like to be part of it. But self-preservation is uppermost.
Yeah. Again, you see, I as a political party, we believe that the collection of PVCs, because this is very important also, well, INEC is given a deadline, which is okay, but if the election is taking place February 25th, the presidential election, there's nothing wrong in saying 1 week's elections, you stop collection of PVCs to allow more people to be able to collect these PVCs. Because collection of PVCs, I don't think it affects the elections per se in a negative way. It will affect it in a positive way because more people are allowed to come into the system. So what I'm asking is that I need to consider extending this date to say 1 week before the elections, because the personnel perhaps is an issue, so as not to differentiate some people. The issue of insecurity that we are talking about is a challenge to the whole country, really. It's just so that it becomes a particular issue because now people have found things that have to do with elections to be of strategic interest to the nation. So those who are trying to find oxygen for themselves, calling attention to themselves, for reasons I don't know why, choose those election facilities to attack, to make what point I don't know. And the worrisome aspect of it is, why is it happening more in one part of the country? This is another thing that perhaps government and security agencies have to address. That if the culprits, must be identified, those who are really perpetrating these things, so that they don't inadvertently or deliberately, upset the whole exercise that we are trying to embark upon. Because it's not only collection of the PVCs, but even casting, people coming out to cast their votes. It will also affect the turnout, during elections. So it's important, and I like Mr. President when he has always said that he will make sure that before the election, the insecurity is properly addressed. But that has not happened yet. So there's more to be done in that area.
If these attacks are going on the collection of PVCs, and even for those who have already collected their cards, what encouragement would they have to step out on election day and cast their ballots?
So the motivation is already determined, that it is meant to scare voters.
Correctly.
So if that is the motivation, then we have time enough to deal with the challenge. You see, if there are 27 local governments in Imo State, and 4 or 5 at most local governments are in some parts of flashpoints. So the stakeholder engagement in that environment needs to intensify. Security agents needs to work with a broad spectrum of stakeholders in those particular areas, and also bring in civil society, the political parties themselves, and say, look, what we're going to be losing if we are disenfranchised. I think that has not come to terms. Election will hold in February.
Yeah.
Across this country, there are evidence that crisis has not been able
to stop elections.
Yeah. We had a huge challenge in 2011 with the Northeast. In 2015, some parts of the North Central, elections held. The constitutional threshold for elections to hold is very clear. So if you disenfranchise yourself for whatever it is you think you are pursuing, when election holds, you can't hold anybody responsible. We have had constituencies that had to hold elections after. I remember a constituency in Ekiti had to have, they had to combine that constituency with the gubernatorial election in 2021. So it's a function of engagement, and I think that stakeholders need to begin very serious engagement in those areas. In Enugu State, it's been almost ritual now that from time to time INEC facilities in some local governments are attacked. We need to ask questions. We need to ask the law enforcement, is there a breakdown of intelligence? Are there internal subversion or subterfuge? those questions, so we don't just explain. The country has come to a point where we do not prevent kidnap, but we are always very fast in rescue. The prevention component is weak. We are faster in leading rescue. It's the same thing with this whole thing. We are explaining. There's a text of press conference already deliberate telling people that the facility has been burnt, but nobody is going to say what was done to forestall, to prevent. You have MSDC, and we have said this here, Ogasiri. We have discussed this here. MSDC has responsibility to protect government institutions. When a facility of government is touched, who is sanctioned? Where is the value for money? If we have MSDC in Enugu, in those local governments, it was their intelligence. If their intelligence was available, what was done? Who shirked responsibility? These are questions we are not bothering. So every time, these people who take taxpayers' money will tell you it's everybody's business. Oh, security is everybody's business. We tried somebody, but at the end of the day, there are no sanctions. Nobody is queried, and for me, that is one of the biggest letdowns of this current administration. Is inability to sanction is mind-boggling. It does not raise questions. Explanations are provided, but nobody at the end of the day answers any question on these issues. You had it in Ondo. INEC offices were touched in Ondo. INEC offices were touched in Anambra. INEC offices were touched in Ebonyi. INEC, there is no panel of inquiry. Nothing has been set up to say, can we investigate these things? Or they just say it's unknown government, and then we sleep over and wait for the next one and explain it away again. I am tired of those explanations. I am disposed to hearing that the NSDC commandant in Enugu State has been queried for the continuous touching of INEC governmental facilities in those states, because that is his core responsibility. That is what the Constitution, that was why they have been formed. They were not formed to explain. The law setting them up has no explanation. All it's supposed to take responsibility. If you don't take responsibility, don't explain. Somebody has to start resigning. That's what we see in other places. People, when something happens and they are not able to protect, they say, oh, we failed in our responsibility, and on account of this I'm excusing myself. But that doesn't happen. People are protected, no explanations, and we just go on as if nothing happens. And for me, that is worrisome and really a cause of concern.
All right. Let me also say that at this point we have also been joined by Professor Sam Ebu, who is INEC's resident electoral commissioner in Benue State. He joins us via Zoom. Prof, good to see you. Good evening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, my brother.
All right. And so, well, it's all in your turf now. It's about the collection of PVCs, the challenges. What successes have we recorded so far in the collection of the PVCs? I know everyone would say, yes, the awareness is very high at this point in time, and many more people are trooping out. But there are also challenges and all kinds of practices. Tell us from the perspective of being resident electoral commissioner of INEC.
Yeah, thank you, Cyril. I listened to Samson Itodo, who was trying to explain or to raise some of the issues that are very important, in terms of why we have difficulties. He mentioned, for example, the fact that there were many people on account of multiple registration who were punished, and therefore they are not going to get their permanent voters cards. He made the point that INEC ought to have published the list so that people know that they cannot get their cards. He also mentioned the fact that there are also unprinted PVCs I think in Benue here, I have talked to the ICT, and we are still expecting about 67,000 unprinted PVCs. And when I go around on supervision, I ask the INEC officials to say, of the people who are coming here to collect their PVCs, what is the percentage of those who cannot find their PVCs? And they tell me, well, it's quite small, but my sense is that the two categories of people, those who have unprinted PVCs and those who lost the chance of getting their PVCs because of multiple registration, probably fall in the two categories. But there are additional challenges. Many of us work in states that are virtually or basically agrarian or rural, and many people genuinely complain about the cost of moving from their villages to the RA collection centers. And when they go once, when they go the second time, and they can't find their PVCs, they then get disinterested. Now, so we have this kind of things going on. But as Eze said, the only way out is to continue to mobilize, is to continue to have stakeholders engagement. And as I go on radio programs on daily basis, I realize that there are many Nigerians who have not been following what is happening. And they ask questions that tell you that they are completely disconnected from what is happening. So the only way is to continue to mobilize, is to continue to reach out, is to continue to partner with the media, is to continue to partner with religious leaders and traditional rulers. I think it's not always an easy thing. And between now and the time that collection will stop, I think we can make additional progress.
All right, let me just stay on with you for a while longer, as we also identified the challenge of insecurity for those who have consistently attacked INEC facilities in some states, and even INEC personnel. Security agencies are yet to tackle this in such a manner that will provide the confidence for many of those in those areas to be able to step out. And are you thinking this might well affect not just the collection of the voters' cards, but again when it comes to the election proper? Because if this is happening now, how would a voter feel confident to step out during the election itself?
I think we really don't need to probe it. The link between insecurity and the fact that many people stay away from the polling units is very clear. And I think what we can do is to continue to work with security agencies and to, at local or at macro level, begin to understand where the challenges are more daunting, so that we can work towards them. But I think the overall problem is that there is a whole sense of elite conspiracy. If you look at a whole region where this kind of thing is happening on a repeated basis, I think those who should talk kept quiet for too long. Those who ought to have their voice up to condemn this at the very beginning decided to keep quiet until the thing festered to such a point that it acquires a life of its own. My sense is that we should challenge, ourselves, not to play politics and to come out to speak in favor of democracy, and let us do something collectively to create a window for people to vote. I think we have kept too quiet for too long, and we have gotten to a point where we are the one chasing the problem. I think we are all guilty in terms of what we have done over the years.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Sami. We will be returning to you sometime in the course of this program as we go on. But at this point in time, we'd like to take another of our reports. This one is from Lagos.
Since the collection of permanent voter cards commenced at the registration areas, the apprehension of Lagosians has been visible as they jostle day in, day out to collect their PVC. Scenes like this at Ajumoni Secondary School, Okota Ward 9, made INEC to extend the exercise by 1 week to give more Nigerians the opportunity to take part in the exercise.
Extending the collection of the PVC is giving other equally rights. Those who may not have time to collect it, it's an opportunity for them.
And that means it have given me another room to go and make sure that I got my PVC, because seriously I'm in need of it.
From the island to the mainland, Nigerians are willing to defy the odds to get their cards.
I came in here very early this morning, around 4 a.m. to write down my name, and I thank God today I've gotten my card.
It feels like a sense of achievement because I know what I went through to get this. I've been coming to this particular place for the past 4 days now. This is the 4th day, and it's not easy waking up around 4 o'clock.
This is my first PVC, and this is the first time I'm going to have the privilege to vote. And the process of acquiring this PVC is not difficult.
Despite the extension, the crowd at registration areas in Lagos has not reduced, with many still unable to get their cards after several attempts.
This is giving strength. If they can see the way they can handle it better for us that is going to be stressed here, if they're going to bring it out, we can provide the security for them. They'll be calling the police one-on-one.
I think they need more hand, but this is not organized. If they organize it very well, it will be good. The way they're asking us to collect our card, our name, VOS number, that's not the way it should be done.
INEC Administrative Secretary in Lagos, Adebisi Ajayi, says the electoral umpire will deploy more personnel to fast-track the exercise.
Every day, we ensure that where we have crowd, we increase the number of collection centers in such centers across the state. And we know this through the monitoring mechanisms we have put in place, whereby we deploy our officers to the field to monitor the procedures.
Overall total PVCs collected as of January 15, 2023 in Lagos State is 6,299,036, while uncollected PVCs is 1,211,455. Collection of PVC will now end at the wards on January 22, 2023 and continue thereafter at INEC office in local government areas till January 29, 2023.
All right. Next in our lineup of reports, we have this one from Kano.
In less than 40 days from now, Nigerians will go to polls to elect their leaders who will preside over their affairs for the next 4 years. A lot of resources have been committed by government to ensure successful conduct of the general election, an exercise that is expected to mark 24 years of uninterrupted democracy, the longest in the country's history. The election umpire, INEC, has on its part been working to improve the process and give eligible voters the opportunity to have their PVCs ahead of the elections. But still, many of the PVCs in Kano are ready or yet to be collected by eligible voters.
INEC Kano State have received a total of 444,626 permanent voters card new registration, out of which 153,615, which is 34% of the permanent voters card, have been collected as at 10 January 2023.
INEC says part of the strategies include online registration, devolution of collection from local government to registration centers, among others.
In Kano, we have 484 registration areas where people are collecting their permanent voters card.
The officials at various registration centers told NTA News that with each day that passes, less people come out to collect their voters card.
This is my first time to collect my voter's card.
I collected my voter card too because I want to sell my vote. I want to vote in this coming election coming next month.
INEC is assuring eligible voters who have been to the collection centers and are unable to get theirs, that the commission will make available their cards before the general election. In Kano, Ramatu Abdullahi.
Right. Thank you. If I might just go straight to Professor Sam Egu. If you're there, Prof, what do you make of some of those respondents that we heard saying they woke up as early as 4 o'clock in the morning just to go pick up their PVCs? They have to write down their names, get a number, go, come back, and that's happened. And I'd like you to comment on that, as well as the matter of some saying the timing is not too convenient. Talking about 9 o'clock in the morning to 3 p.m. I'd like you to talk about that and see how it's going in the rural areas. You started talking about it a bit in your opening comments, but let's delve into it in greater detail.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the two states that we have heard their stories, Lagos and Kano, so I can understand why people have to get up as early as 4 a.m., so that they can have a fair chance of collecting their PVCs. We don't have exactly the same kind of situation in states like Benue or Kogi that are relatively quiet and they do not have the same type of population. That is not to say that there are no challenges. Now, if I follow what has happened from June 12, when we started distributing PVCs at the local government area offices, up to January 6th, when we devolved to the wards, you normally see a trend in which on the first few days, you have a mammoth crowd that raises a whole challenge of crowd control. But after 2-3 days, you find the situation calming down. And that is the same kind of graph that I have seen when we devolve to the RA level. And I think over time, we are responding to the challenges. And on a daily basis, we have to devise new techniques of doing it better, And I think for us, within the window that we have, we will be in the position to give out PVCs to people who are alive, not to registrants that have died, not to those who have applied for relocation of their voting units, And so I think our situation will be different from states like Kano and Lagos. And I think we will be in the position to manage. But at the same time, we are not impervious to complaints of Nigerians. We are not policymakers at state levels, but we have a duty to also feed INEC headquarters with the kind of concerns of the public. And I think it is that type of thing that led to extension of collection of PVCs at RA level by 1 week. So it is, we will continue to improve. I will continue to, feed headquarters with the challenges that we have. If we can adjust policy in order to meet the expectations of Nigerians. And I think that is the right way to go.
Coming back to the studio here, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. People wake up to go get PVCs, and it reminds us of what we see even on election day when people hardly go to sleep because they need to be in front there to have a better chance of being attended to. That's on one side. And the numbers of people who said, look, we need this. One person said, I really need this card this time around. You don't seem to be impressed by that. You still think that even from reports we see like this, we might still just be scratching the surface.
Well, Lagos people ordinarily wake up by 4 a.m. So most persons. So I'm not particularly, excited that somebody. If you told me that somebody in Yola woke up by 4 a.m. to go, and I'll be worried. I'll be really scared. So Lagosians by 3 a.m. you see people shouting Oshodi, and the human beings are boarding those vehicles. But that's just on the lighter side. You see, I think that we can be anesthetized by this individual excitement and lose track of the real work of mobilizing people to come out and cast their vote. And I say this, because like I said, you had 84 million people on your voter register, and you have not had 30 million people voting. All you need to do is to backtrack and see what your environment was like in 2014, leading to 2015. Backtrack and see what your environment was like 2018, leading to 2019. If you are able to, because this amnesia of, we have suddenly, there is an enthusiasm. Every election comes with enthusiasm, and that's why Nigeria is always telling you that this election is the litmus test. If you remember, in 2011 is a litmus test of this election is a make or mar for Nigeria. And what that does, in my own view, is that the real work which civil society and the political parties need to do is now shrouded in this fog, if you like, of one person coming to say I need it. But go and find out, why do you have uncollected? What is the statistics for uncollected PVCs? By the time we shut down on the 29th, what will be the figure be? If we don't extend, as the IPAC chairman has said, what will happen? What will be that number? Why are those people not collecting? Why do people need to be persuaded to go and collect their PVC if they were the ones that came out to do the registration? So the hard conversation is not taking place. What we need to do is to sensitize traditional and moral institutions to get involved in mobilization. Listen, if you go to your state, for instance, back out from Ibadan and just move to Ishenyi and the likes, you will find INEC officials sitting idly for most of these hours. Nobody is coming. If you go to the same Lagos, all you need to do is to go to Ikoyi, go to Victoria Land, Lekki, and the rest of them, and find out whether INEC officials who are there are staunch as those in Oshodi, Ajegule, Isolo, Ekpe, and the rest of them. So Nigeria is not there's too much excitement, and we need to burrow through that excitement to work, to do the work that is required to mobilize our people to eventually come out. It is diminishing for us as a people to have 200 million people, pride ourselves that we have 200 million people, and 93 million of us are what are in the register, and at the end of the day we may not have up to 40-50 million of us coming out to vote. There is something that is not connecting, and that thing that is not connecting is the hard conversation that needs to happen. And I think that we need to get away from this furor of people are trudging out. You show us that particular place where people are trudging out, but you won't show us the many more places where our people are not coming out to pick their PVCs.
All right, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, the phone lines will be open, and you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is the station that I want to commend the federal government for putting
a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic political arena. Like I said, I'm really impressed with the infrastructure in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause. NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. And this part of the program, you can join in the conversation. In a short while, the numbers to call will be on your screens. We advise you take advantage of them and call in. We always say this every Tuesday. If you're calling in tonight and your call gets through to the studio, do us a favor. Turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point. Keep it short and simple. Go straight to the point so others can also get on the platform and air their views. And we always say to you, don't bother too much about the greetings. Just a simple hello will do. We start off now with another of our reports. This one is from Port Harcourt.
With the increased consciousness of prospective voters, residents in Rivers State towards collection of their PVCs ahead of the elections crowded the collection centers. The resultant effect was delay in the process.
It was not ready. That we that registered, that is by July, that today they will do the sorting of our own card. We came this morning. The queue is not phoning at all.
Irrespective of the fact that we have come here not once, not twice, not thrice, yet they keep telling us that our PVCs are not ready.
However, with the recent decision by the electoral umpire to devolve the registration centers to communities from 6th to 29th January, the process is becoming easier. Rivers State now has a total of 319 registration centers.
These are the plans that INEC has put in place to ease off the stress of collecting PVCs. So we once again want to apologize for Nigerians and for Rivers people for every encumbrance they are facing right now. We're also working on Saturdays and Sundays.
As at October 2022, at the conclusion of the automated biometric identification system in Rivers State, a total of 317,717 valid registrations were recorded, while a total of 156,217 invalid registrations were recorded. INEC has also been receiving PVCs for distribution, with the recent batch being 27 cartons on the 16th of December 2022. Prospective voters and INEC are ready for the elections in Rivers State.
To blow our minds, the number of Nigerians that will come out to show the difference in this election.
Yes, since my life, I've so much to get the PVC. I've so much to vote. But this time around, I was so convinced in my spirit to vote.
We started receiving materials from Abuja, non-sensitive materials. We received the beavers, and as well, we are now receiving the permanent voters card, of which we are now issuing to prospective voters.
INEC appeals to stakeholders to provide peaceful atmosphere while the PVCs are being distributed at community levels. In Port Harcourt, Robinson Delatede.
And this next one is from Enugu.
The clock is ticking, and the long-awaited year 2023 for the general elections is here, and Nigerians are hopeful that the election another vista of opportunities in the nation's democratic journey. The electoral umpire says it has put very ensure a successful, credible, free and fair election and is now dotting the I's and crossing the T's. The commission is present election stage, and according to the election timetable, this exercise commenced nationwide on the 12th of December 2022 at the 774 local government areas of the Commission throughout the Federation. In Ebonyi and Enugu states, there were no challenges recorded during the exercise.
The first week started from 12th of December. We recorded first week 5,000 babies, and the second week we recorded 10,759 babies. And on third week, this is within the last week, we recorded 5,949 babies in Enugu states.
For some residents of Ebonyi, like Favor Unwe and Adachuk Nwafo, first-timers in the electoral process, the 2023 general elections will be their first experience in exercise.
My first time of getting my voter's card.
Right. Unfortunately, we have to discontinue that report for certain technical reasons. Some hitches, more like the hitches we're experiencing with the distribution of PVCs, or got the report there. But back here in the studio, IPAC chairman, the climate generally, how would you assess it from the point of the political parties?
Well, from the point of political parties, I think we're making progress. We're making progress because regardless of the challenges, the interest is becoming more and more in deepening democracy. And that's what I think is important. These challenges are things that I believe, will go away as we move towards, the cycle of elections, not only 2023. Because remember, these are permanent voters' cards. So those who have collected their cards, except for reasons of transfer or something like that, you don't need to go back again to do this. So as we move on, this process itself will become more refined. So as a political party, we believe we are making progress.
Right, the phones are already ringing. We have a first caller tonight. Ololade from Kwara State. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go right ahead with a question or comment.
Good evening. I'm Ololade from Kwara.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So far, so good. So far, so good. The INEC is doing well. The INEC is doing well as per the exercise of card collection. But we need to call on Nigerians that we should start the approach of last-minute approach. Particularly, I'm impressed in the area of you extending it to Saturday and Sunday. It's Nigeria that we will call upon to please come out and collect it. That's just what I can say. I'm happy with the performance of INEC. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Ololade, calling in from Kwara State. Let's go over to Samson Itodo now, Executive Director, Yaga Africa. And yes, same question we'll put to you. The climate generally, the collection of the PVCs, what with all the challenges, it's still going on. And of course, the build-up to next month's election. All right. Okay. Well. Okay. Well. We'll work on that and restore that link with Samson Itodo. But Wagu, in spite of all the challenges, we're moving on from the observation, from the observatory. What do you see about the climate change?
I think the timetable for election is moving on quite unrestrained, in my view. For us to get to this point, it means there are things that happened. We've gone through the candidate selection process, and that has ended, not without so many litigations, and it worries enthusiasts, election enthusiasts, that political parties are rising from their primaries and the challenges of internal party democracy. We have, according to INEC, over 600 litigations pre-election litigations. I think there's something that we need to do about that. But having said that, we've moved to that point where at least we know those we are going to be voting for. That's a huge leap, if you ask me. We are now dealing with the challenge of, card collections and the rest of them. So if you look at the calendar, we are ticking box after box. We will also overcome these challenges. By the 29th of January, 3rd of February, all the challenges around the PVC collection will have been sorted. We will then be moving to the real challenges of election logistics and administration, and we'll keep an eye on it. So I am enthusiastic that democracy has come to stay in Nigeria. The excitement that you see, in spite of the fact that in so many literature, social science literature, the conversation is whether democracy is working for people around the world generally. But here, I think, especially those of us who saw military rule, who saw dictatorship, who saw the challenge of authoritarianism, what we are going through now is nothing compared to what it was, and all that can happen is progress. So we're enthusiastic, and that's why we're in it. That's why you have political parties going around the country canvassing for votes, and that is going unhindered. We must understand that, in spite of the challenge of people say the campaigns are not issue based and all of that, but we are seeing town halls with all the challenges that come with those town halls. But there are town halls, people are having conversation, debates are going on, and generally we are setting up a festival, and that festival will climax February 25th and March. And for me, that's something we must look forward to. If you were here in 2018, if you were here in 2014, if you were here in 2010, and then before that, you think that, in fact, it was predicted that by 2015 there was no Nigeria. And some of the folks who made that prediction, they returned again in 2019 to observe election, and nobody asked them what happened, that their prediction did not come to. So, in spite of the challenges that we face as a people, Nigerians are resilient. Nigerians are very, very determined to have democracy, and it will deepen with time, and the challenges that we are facing will overcome them.
Right. Calling in from Gombe, Mohammed. Hello, Mohammed. Go ahead with a question or comment. Mohammed calling in from Gombe.
Hello, good evening. Good afternoon to you all.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
I really appreciate all the guests that in the studio. Here in Gombe, I really appreciate the effort of INEC at the national level, where they used to entertain people. And my call was to hearing that they should bear with INEC. I know some of us, we used to come and eager to collect our PDP without being on the TO below for at least 1 or 2 hours. Also,
yes, Mohammed,
INEC are doing their best. Here in Gombe, I hear a witness that we used to come from 8, 9 up to 4, also in the weekend.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Mohammed. Right. Back here. And, I do hope that Professor Sam Egu is with us. Right. Prof. The unusual happens. All those PVCs that have been printed, that have been distributed, they're all collected. I say the unusual happens. All of them, every single one collected. And so we're ready. We march to the election day, February 25th, is INEC ready to accommodate all?
Yeah, I think from the point of view of my location and what we are doing in terms of implementing the activities of INEC, the training we are doing, as I talk to you, there are zonal trainings going on targeted at our local government officials on how to use the beavers, on how to implement the INEC guidelines and regulations that are drawn on the basis of the 2022 Electoral Act, the testing of the functionality of beavers, which we did over a little over 1 week ago, and the fact that in Benue, of the 5,106 beavers we brought, only one didn't pass the functionality test, and and we have a way of also, so I think in terms of preparations for this election and the way we are doing our training, and also reining in on the ethics of the commission and what must be done right in the election, I am pretty sure that we are ready for election on March 25th. As I talk to you, we are in cycle of discussion with the road transport workers that are doing the logistics on behalf of INEC. Remember that the MOU has been reviewed at the national level and signed. So we are doing all that is possible. Access meetings are going on, and we are so happy that the type of, the leadership of security agencies that we happen to be working with understand the challenges of election, and they are ready. So if you ask me, we are ready for election, but we will continue to mobilize. We will continue to address challenges around security. We will continue to perfect our logistics. I will continue to focus on internal training and capacity building. I think that's all that we need to do, and we are doing them very well.
Right. Back to the phones. Chiba from Port Harcourt. Hello. Chima from Port Harcourt. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Go right ahead.
Hello.
Chima, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. Chima from Port Harcourt. Yeah. I think I met INEC, especially in Port Harcourt. They are doing well. I made a transfer from my former place to my present place now, and I pick up my own, and my wife also took her own in Sunday. It didn't take us about 1 hour to took our own. But there's something I want to point out. That some unpatriotic Nigerians, there are some people, I'm sorry to say this, some INEC officers say, we are tired, we want to eat. Please give us, we have not eaten since morning. We want to go and do this. People will be signing. People are eager to collect. But sometimes there are some unpatriotic Nigerians. It's just behave as if want to go, listen, can't we, I will not human being, can we let's go, then let's eat, let's do this thing, or go and buy us, that kind of thing. It's not good. People are ready to do this. I think I need to continue to incite these people so that people will get it PVC. Nigerians want to get it. Everybody wants to get it. So please, help us get it. Thank you, Uncle Sher and Uncle Edomo. I know you, sir. Thank you very much. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chima. Well, not the bad. The officials, he says, allude to, we are tired, no, we haven't had breakfast, or we haven't had lunch, or it's about time we had a drink or two, we're thirsty, and these are suggestions they make to people who are there, and it's not just on election matters. It's something you find generally in society, and that brings to question the attitudes people take to things like this, which is when reflected in matters of election.
Well, so for us in civil society, when we train our observers, part of the stipends that they are paid during for election observation is so that you're able to take light refreshment, that you can keep water and stuff. I do not think that INEC officials who will resume by 9 o'clock and end around 4 or come on Saturday will not have been planned for. I don't see how that happens, so they simulate that situation so that you can respond. It elicits a response. But it is unprofessional, and everyone knows this, but like I said, it's about sanction and reward. If people do their work well, how much do we reward them openly? If they do badly, how much do we pay attention to sanctioning for the purpose of deterrent? And that for me is all that is about. And I have continued to make the argument that except the reward and sanction consequence management system is prioritized, people will be getting away and thinking that, here we are mobilizing. Everyone is asked to mobilize people to come out and collect their PVCs, only for INEC officials to become the problem. There is something that is not sitting well on that. And I am sure that people like Professor Igu, in the place where he is, if he is knowing his antecedents, will not tolerate those kind of things. And I hope that other INEC officials, especially the leadership in the states, will emulate this Sunshine INEC. I call them Sunshine INEC resident electoral commissioners who are working, and there are many of them who, by force of personal example, are showing professionalism, determination, courage in doing this work. And I think if it permits to the electoral officers, the EOs also have a level of power which they need to exercise over these people. And it's something that has gone on for too long. And most INEC folks, they don't like me because I'm always, saying these things, and when you say them, the thing is bring evidence. And like I said, we are not going to provide evidence because somebody from Port Harcourt has told you now that this is what their people are doing. Somebody in Otako in Abuja has said so. All you need to do is to begin to see that it's a black tar that is going to cover everybody if nothing serious is done about that.
All right, back to the phones again. Charles from Abakaliki. Charles, thanks for staying on. Let's hear you. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Go right ahead. Thank you.
I'm calling from Abakaliki. Okay. I want to appreciate INEC. They have done a good job. For me, I've collected my PVC and I didn't suffer before I collected it. It was where I went there and I gave them my printed paper and they checked and they gave it to me. Very simple. And I want to use this opportunity for those of you that know INEC chairman. Tell him that we are praying for him. He will succeed. God will give him wisdom to give us good election. Those calling for his resignation and other things, they have failed already. God will keep him, protect him, and protect all the INEC staff and every Nigeria to vote and choose our leaders. God will help us to get it right this time around. Thank you very much. And for you, Sri Sofa, you are my man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Well, back to the studio, IPOC chairman. The parties are already putting their best foot forward in this matter that's coming up in just a few weeks from now. And Nigerians are also getting ready for it. A lot has been said about what's going on and what is expected to happen when people go to the polls. And we see this all the time. The frenzy begins, as everyone has identified. We all mobilize people to go collect your PVCs, and we're happy that we have XY millions that have been distributed and collected. On election day, when the results are ruled out, we see less than a third of all these efforts. What's happening?
Well, democracy in an environment like ours, where you have prevalent poverty, endemic ignorance, a lot of things happen. Again, when you weigh that against the background of the fact that you have what we call power of incumbency. In the 2023 election, power of incumbency, I don't know how much it will not come to play. Although Mr. President has always assured that he's going to leave a legacy of credible election. But the fact still remains that there are desperados. And this is why INEC is doing a lot. Political parties are doing a lot too. But you talk about after elections, people have cast their votes. When the results come, sometimes it does not reflect what people voted for. So what we do is what we are doing now. Sensitizing the people, letting people understand that it's not yet Uhuru, Beavers, RV, INEC being determined. It's not it alone. That's not what will give us the elections. People themselves must be alert. And otherwise something different may happen because of desperation that has been shown. And that's why, from the political parties' point of view, we believe that we are doing quite a lot. The candidates who are going out, crisscrossing, like myself, I'm a participant in this election. I'm contesting for the office of the president of this country. I'm worried. When you see the way people, there's this kind of sense of entitlement that I've already won. It's like the election has been won. And when you listen to some of the things happening, how people are bringing in issues that perhaps by this time we shouldn't be talking about, then you begin to wonder, But Nigeria, like we all know, it is the shining beacon of hope for democracy on the continent of Africa. And for that reason, I believe we are going to succeed.
Okay, we have another caller on the line, Samuel from Abia. Hello, Samuel.
We don't know what to do. In fact,
Samuel from Abia. Is that you? Samuel from Abia, hello.
No, we'll be waiting.
I'm not quite sure it's Samuel, or perhaps it's been on the line and is engaged with someone else. But once again, Samuel, if you're there, go ahead with your question or comment. All right, we might have to stand down that call. And I guess there'll be other callers waiting on the line to come on. But just before we take in another call, let me return to Professor Sam Egu. Prof, what I'm asking you to do might be difficult. I don't know if you can do this. But I'd like you to take a step back from being INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner for this particular question and don on this cap as an academic. And the question is, as a people, do we have a political culture that reflects democratic ideals?
Well, I think this is not a very dangerous question. The only thing is that I can't comment on candidates, I can't comment on their chances, I can't comment on their style, But I think we have a big issue to address in this country. There are two issues. Democracy is founded on strong institutions of parliaments, of election management body, of political parties, but also of attitude of actors and their approach to the game, including respect for the rules of the game. So you need strong institutions, you need correct attitude, respect for the culture of democracy. Unfortunately, in our own context, the culture of the political elite and their attitude to competition negates the basic tenets of democracy. I read newspapers on daily basis, and the kind of grandstanding, the kind of politics of brinkmanship, or what somebody calls it is our turn, and if we don't get it, this should be the end of the country. You go to bed sometimes thinking you will not wake up to meet Nigeria tomorrow. So we have those attitudes, we have those issues. So we must address simultaneously building strong institutions of democracy, including strong political parties that have respect for internal democracy. We need also to invest on public education and enlightenment, and civil society in particular. We need to put pressure on the politicians to behave, because at the end of the day, people don't even prioritize public interest and public service. It's all about what they want. And I think these are the challenges we need to address. And they are open, and we can't deny them.
All right, thank you. And back to the phones, we have another Samuel calling in, this time from Kwara. Samuel from Kwara, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, hello, go on.
Hello.
We can hear you. Go right ahead.
Hello.
Hello. I think now we do have a Samuel from Kwara, not Abia, right? From Kwara. So on the screen, if you look on the screen, you see Samuel, except that this time the Samuel calling is Samuel from Kwara.
Agbeje.
Are you with us?
Agbeje.
Oh dear, we might have to leave it there and come back to the studio. Yes, just keep trying. Still have some time to take a few more calls. I'd like to find out if we still have Samson Itodo with us. No, unfortunately, we can't re-establish these links with him. But back here, as well, we just spoke to Professor Abu. Yes. Yes, we just spoke to Professor Samigu, and he just commented on the political culture that way. You have always spoken about this, and the IPAC chairman started talking about what's going on, and he's a candidate himself, but it would seem that one or two things are not just the way they should be.
Well, for me, I think first that there are things we need to interrogate. When people say we will vote rightly this time, when an individual says so, you give the impression that the majority that voted the other time voted wrongly. That's the first challenge that I have.
Right.
And I have that challenge because if 15 million people vote for somebody and 12 million others vote for another person, the 15 million that voted and won don't shout. They have moved on. The 12 million noise will drown everywhere and give the impression that 15 million that voted. Now, the right of the people to vote is democratic. And those of us who are election enthusiasts, because we are process watchers, outcomes are not very, very important to us. But for the political class, for them it's always about outcome. They are not invested in process. When the outcome does not suit them, then democracy has failed. It's the same thing they do with the judiciary. If they go to the courts and the court gives them judgment, they say, oh, the judiciary is for the common man. When it's against them, they say, oh, this is a... So we have to do some interrogation when we deal with these issues. So for process, Steve is that is very important. That process. Why are we investing in process? And what Professor Ugu said is important. If the electoral management body is truly independent and organizes free, fair, credible elections, the outcome is for the people eventually. The consequence of it will be theirs. They may decide not to vote who you think is right. That is why in many constituencies you can have somebody who is not very educated standing against a professor, and the people will vote and leave the professor. They know why they make such choices. So the issue of choice is important in democracy, and it has to be respected. And that for me is the critical conversation that we need to have.
All right, we might return to the question of issue of choice, because sometimes choice might not be entirely independent. But let's try to take in this call from Kebbi. Idris calling in. Hello, Idris. All right, we've lost that call. And okay, so back to the same question. Choice. You talk about choice, but in our climes, we've had people say sometimes choices are made not by anyone's free will, but by coercion.
Yes, you see, there was something a chairman said. When you have poverty, and there are different variants of it, there is the poverty of the mind, there is the real poverty, and many people have the both. They are not just poor, they are also poor in their mind. Then you have people who you think are rich and they are actually very poor in their mind. So when you are vested in that kind of environment, free and fair election is actually academic. And what I mean by that is that when people are paid to vote, the amount is not important. It could be 2,000 naira, it could be the launching of a church building, it could be a visit to the traditional ruler. All of those purchases coming together distract from choice. But the fact is, whether it is purchased or wielding, the consequence of it. And that is why I said the process for us, if INEC sets its standards on election day, does accreditation when it should, people line up to vote, and they are not bought in the precinct that the law have determined, the outcome of that election is the consequence. The people themselves will suffer the consequence if they did not vote through their conscience. But to begin to determine for people, and that's the point that Professor Ugu was making, that losers in Nigeria, we are litigious people. We are people who will not agree that we lost.
Okay.
Even a free and fair election. And it's in the DNA of the political parties to even try to rig an election, they are even going to win.
Okay, we'll ask the IPAC chairman to comment on that. But will we still have the caller on the line? Okay, fine. But yes, is it in the DNA of the politician and the political parties to want to skew results to their favor, even when it is in their favor, really?
not exactly so.
Right.
It's about the human nature, and like we have said, like Chief Ezewa also is alluded to, that in a country where you have 133 million people living below poverty line, and you have 84 million that are registered voters. I mean, and look at what happened. Processes, like it talks about processes leading to the general elections are such that you cannot but have people killing themselves over PVCs, because the PVC, some of them that excited about these PVCs to collect at the election, because that's what they have been shown at the primaries. When dollars were distributed, the agencies, the security agencies, the government turned the blind eye, and we don't know what is happening.
So for some, the collection of the PVC might well be a guarantee to get at the election, not necessarily to vote in whoever they believe, but who
exactly the highest bidder. Right. I mean, the person that can give.
People are already selling their PVC.
Yes.
People are.
So that's the danger. That's why people are saying that what happened during the primaries should have been, dealt with by the security agencies.
Chairman, the challenge of that is that we put out the dominant political parties.
Yes.
And rightly so. We put them out rightly so.
Yes.
But when also somebody joins a political party on the 27th, and by the 30th, he has become the presidential candidate of a political party, and nobody has investigated the miracle, the Daman miracle that brought that about. So both the political parties, the other political parties, have one form of internal crisis,
exactly,
and that we are not dealing with. There is no reason why you should be a founder of a political party and become the presidential candidate as well. There is something that's not right about that.
No. I mean, the issue is this. Look at the history of this country itself. Chief Awolowo of blessed memory. You look at Abino Kano, Zikwe, even today, Birthplace and all these things. They form their parties and they are president candidates of their parties. There's nothing wrong with that kind of process. What is wrong is for somebody to come and use money or other influences to subvert the process itself. That's what we are talking about.
Yes. So
that is what is wrong.
Yes.
So the point I'm making is that we should begin to address the issue of monetization of the process. It's dangerous. Even in civilized societies, they don't accept, allow monetization of the democratic processes as we allow it here. So that's the point we are trying to make.
All right. As we prepare to wind down, Professor Sam Ebu, it's been stated here on this program that it's a freedom of choice to decide to be part of what has been referred to as a civic responsibility to vote and be voted for, and that the registration and collection of voters' card by no means translates to effective participation, and it's always people's choice to decide whether they want to be part of it or not. I mean, there's no law that compels any citizen of voting age to register and vote in an election, at least not in these climes. But we're looking at Nigeria generally and saying, how can this country, moving forward as we approach the general election next month, how can the citizens become aware that when they decide to participate, then it is an important process of helping to develop the nation?
Thank you, Cyril. I think the first point to make is that when we are discussing democracy and participation, it is in the long haul. It is not a low-hanging fruit. And therefore, what we all need to do at the moment is to safeguard the process of regular and periodic election, which we have had since 1999, so that over time, we can deepen that democratic process and move from procedural element of democracy in terms of regular voting to political accountability in which those elected can actually do the bidding of those who elected them. The problem essentially everywhere, not only in Nigeria, is that democratic election is the game the elites play. And what we need to do is to understand the dynamics of the fact that we are dealing with elite arrangement and it's elite pact. And the conversation at the end of the day is not the people we see coming out to vote. There will be some voters that are voting on the basis of their independent judgments of the campaign programs of candidates and parties. But a lot many will vote on the basis of what their leaders told them to do. So our prayer is that this democracy survives over time so that it can be transformed from the game elites play into real power of the people to choose their leaders and hold them accountable at the end of the day.
All right, I'd like to thank you for that. And well, as we prepare to wind down, Chairman IPAC, yes, your closing comments on all of this in the build-up to next month.
Yeah, well, I believe so far so good in the sense that Nigerians are energized, like I said, to ensure that their vote counts, and the fact that this country is the largest democracy on the continent of Africa. All eyes are on Nigeria, and I believe that 2023 is going to be a success. Why? Because we have INEC has demonstrated, determination to ensure that they succeed on the mandate given to them, and we have political parties too, who are out to give their best, in order to build this nation, to move this nation forward. So I call on Nigerians to cast their vote and vote wisely in 2023.
Thank you.
I mean, February.
Right. Well, from the point of CSOs, who have played a very important role in the whole process leading to sensitization and elections, actually, and who continue to play a key role in the entire process. What would be your closing comments as we approach next month, given what has happened in the past, what's happening currently, and our projections?
Well, I think there has to be stakeholders accountability. And what I mean by that is that INEC, we've oversighted INEC, in my view. Every conversation is what INEC is doing, what is INEC doing. But at the risk of being immodest, I think we have over-respected our political class and the politicians. Their contribution to bad election is immense. If they don't corrupt the INEC officials, if they don't invest in Togri, if they respect the rules, guidelines, constitution, we will have good elections. If we have security agents who are not territorial, who understand coordination in the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security and contribute meaningfully to making sure that election is and be accountable to the people. Access should not be a secret court. The access should be able to tell us its plan. We've made this demand. We are not interested in being part of access. We want to see your national election security plan for 2023. The political parties should make that demand and have it and say, this is what we are doing. It shouldn't be a secret document. That is the stakeholder accountability that I'm talking about. And then civil society. We have seen INEC accredit almost 1,000 plus organizations published. People should make a call to INEC and say these organizations are civil society organizations created in the image of people in government. That will be accountability. So if this stakeholder accountability mechanism is put in place where we are watching each other, 2023 process will be such that it can produce an outcome that
everybody will be comfortable with. But once this stakeholder accountability is mismanaged, we are going to have a situation in which we will be responding to issues. Challenges with INEC, perennial one is logistics. There are exciting comments about what has been done. We know that MOUs are always being signed by vendors. When it went wrong, was MOU not signed? So we should go beyond MOU. When we say we have revised MOU, what are those things that made the former ones fail? What are those challenges? What have we done to make sure that it doesn't happen? So MOU is not sufficient in my view. There has to be much more, because we always have signed MOU. And when they fail, what are we going to do as an antidote to that failure, so that we don't get to the point where we're explaining? And that for me is the challenge. And for the voters, 2023 is about the people. And how is it about the people? If you are transactional, you diminish your citizenship. If you sell your votes, the quality of your citizenship is diminished by selling those votes. First, you lose the person that comes into government will lose respect for the people. That's the first thing that happens, because after all, I paid you. And then there is arrogance that comes. I paid you, you know, and then the one that is elected will lack legitimacy. Because every time people will say, we didn't elect you, you forced yourself on us, and all of that will run for another 2 years before we start stabilizing. And Nigeria is in a hurry right now to come out of the challenges that we are facing as a people. That for me is what 2023 is about. It's about stakeholder accountability and management.
One quick final question here.
Yes.
Do you believe that the people get the leader they deserve?
You see, there are two ways. If you have a process that is if you have a good process, whatever then comes, the people. But if it was purchased, then the people, you can't claim that they deserve the leaders, because those are not the leaders ordinarily that they would have wanted. But if it is a process and the election is free, fair, credible, inclusive, and acceptable, then the people deserve the leaders that they have.
What about you?
Well, I believe under the underlying conditions we have in Nigeria today, you can't say the people get the leaders they deserve, because one, there's the power of incumbency. I want you to underline that, underscore that, and also there's state capture in this country today. So what's going to happen, believe you me, is prayers. We are praying that the votes will actually count. Votes will actually count end of the day, because this is not normal situation we have in this country. It's not normal.
But let's give it to President Muhammadu Buhari. In the off-cycle elections, we have seen competitive elections. We have seen opposition win those elections. If the legacy of free fair election is what he wants to bequeath to the country, and I see him right now, he's been accused of not even showing. A lot of people are saying he's not following his candidate all over the place, which is what we saw when people were saying is do or die, election is do or die. This president seemed to somehow is managing the difficult challenge of being a party leader and a president, and I think it's something we should encourage him to continue that way, so that he can bequeath a more friendly environment. But the states are where you have challenge. The behavior of the governors in the states is something that we are not paying attention to, and some of them are actually being rascally as we speak now. And something needs to happen.
Yeah, leadership is just about one person. The whole world is just one person.
Yes,
left to him, I mean, it would be a completely different ball game than what we are having today. But the situation we have today, believe me, is not what anybody dreamt of.
Well, okay, we will, of course, we'll spare Professor Sam Egu any comment on that last bit and that final question for very obvious reasons. Then INEC, the resident electoral commissioner of Benue State, all we can say for now as we wrap it up is to say thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us, availing us of the procedure and what's happening in where you are and generally how prepared INEC is for the upcoming elections. We'd like to thank you for your time with us tonight. Thank you so much, Prof. It's always good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful.
All right. Well, we'd like to say thank you very much to Engineer Yabagi Yusuf Sani, National Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, also a key player in these elections, the presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party. Thank you for being here with us. Ezenwa Wagu, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Ezenwa Wagu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms, thank you so very much. We look forward to asking you to come again. And
how much your service?
All right, thank you. And Samson Itodo would like to say thank you. Samson Itodo, Executive Director, Yaga Africa, who joined us via Zoom in the opening part of this program. Unfortunately, we lost links with him in the latter part of the program, but all the same, we'd like to thank you for very useful contributions at the time we had you with us. So, Samson Itodu, Executive Director, Yaga Africa, thank you very much. And to you, too, we'd like to say a big thank you. Those who called in and were part of this program, we thank you for your thoughts. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stover. Continue to stay safe.